What is going on, everybody? Welcome back to the channel. Welcome to the Just Gonna Say It podcast. It is Tuesday afternoon at 4 p.m. Eastern time. Welcome. We're going to talk about guitar stuff. We're going to talk about one guitar in particular, very interesting, and then we can answer a bunch of guitar questions. If you have guitar questions, get them in the chat over there, and we'll talk about them. All of these live streams are ad free, so you can use a super chat to discuss, or you can use a super chat to ask a question. That'll support the channel. More importantly, you can go to DylanTalksTone.com right here, and you can buy pickups and guitars and all kinds of stuff over there, parts, various things like that, etc. So I just noticed that Raymond became a YouTube member. Thanks, man. We're doing a bunch of neat stuff on the membership and Patreon side. We're kind of changing up how we do our Thursday night live stream. We're going to give the Patreon members and YouTube members their own sort of little video with answering questions to kind of dive deeper into them. We're going to, you'll see in the next few days, it's going to be pretty cool. And we've got videos coming out pretty much every other day or so, really, over there, kind of doing some various, extra stuff. So I think you'll dig it. It's pretty neat. Okay, so I want to talk about this Herman Li signature SE. I think it's very, very cool. It just came out. I don't know if they announced it. Did they announce it yesterday or was it today? This is an interesting one because when we did the video, or we did a podcast about the original guitar when it came out, it was getting a lot of negative because it was so expensive. And my point with that original guitar was, it's sort of a halo piece at that time for PRS. The manufacturing and stuff that went into that guitar made it a very expensive guitar. And I think if you were not, if you're not familiar with how things are made, you might not appreciate how difficult of an instrument that guitar was to make. So now that the SE has come out, I want to talk about it again because you really start to see the delta between the two. Even though this one is still $2,000, and we'll get into that. I think this is a very interesting guitar. Hey everybody, that's chiming in the comments too as well. So yeah, I think this is a really neat thing. Super chat from Dastardly Dave. Ad free is cool. Thank you much, sir. I appreciate this very much. Okay, so first thing we need to talk about is that it's a bolt-on neck. Okay. In fact, there's going to be people who drop their guitars all the time who say they think that's probably better because apparently he dropped his guitar or somehow something broke a prototype, even though I think they fixed that by the time it came out. I think it's a non-issue, but for those of you who insist on breaking your guitars, dropping them, then a bolt-on neck is going to be nice and strong, and you won't have to worry about that. However, the manufacturing cost for that's probably a lot less just because of the way this particular guitar was engineered. I think it makes sense that they would do a bolt-on neck for this. When we look at the body of this guitar, this is where the big kind of distance in cost comes from. Not only the selection of materials, but all the milling time. So I don't know if you noticed, but it's got the ugly like Silver Sky football for where the jack plugs in instead of that like in-body milled in kind of thing that it had before, which is a completely different, much more simple and a lot less involved sort of engineering piece of that guitar, as well as the hump where the switch lives is now like in a metal plate. So when you watch the video and you see them actually working on the guitar, the sanding and the machining and all that stuff's way easier. Not only that, the machining time to make that is a lot less, which is really, really interesting. I don't like it. I think it looks kind of ugly with those metal bumps, but I get that you have to do what you have to do to make the guitar cheaper, right? So it makes sense. I think it's a cool guitar. I think it's really neat. They still Fishman Fluence pickups, which is really, really cool. Floyd Rose 1000 series, which is an import version, obviously, of a regular Floyd Rose. I'm sure it's fine. Those things are pretty bomb-proof, really. And of course, way less involved inlays. Even though inlays are inlays, they don't just jump on there by themselves. So they do still incur a cost, right? And what else about that thing that's pretty neat and different? The switching's really cool. It's got a bunch of different tonal options. I wouldn't personally use them all, but I think whoever gets one of these is going to really, really have fun with it. It's a really neat guitar. Let's see. Don't get me wrong, but PRS SE guitars are very nice, but $2,000, is it the tariffs? Okay, so let's talk about that. Why is $2,000 too much money? Why? There are all kinds of other guitars made in Asia. This is a Cortec Indonesia guitar, by the way. There are all kinds of guitars made in Asia that cost $2,000. Lots. A lot of ESPs, a lot of Ibanez's, a lot that are very, very nice, that are very well appointed, that cost $2,000. You have to figure, there's probably, I don't know what the artist premium on this is, but I would imagine usually artist premiums are $300 to $500. So, okay, so then that takes it down to $1,500. And this guitar is really, really, really complicated in comparison to like a Silver Sky, for example, or even one of their normal core model, like their 594 SE. It's so much more of a lift to build than there's just more time in it. The cycle time to build a guitar is much longer than like, an SE 594, for example. It's just a much more involved guitar to build. Let's see. So, I think, okay, yeah, there's probably some cost involved in there with importing them. I get that. But I think the guitar is just not a cheap guitar to make, is what it really comes down to. And the reason I bring this up, and I'm glad you brought it up, and the reason I wanted to talk about it, I want to give credit where credit's due there, is because I think people have in their heads that a particular brand of guitar is supposed to cost a certain amount of money, right? So since all of the PRS SEs are between like $800 and $1,200, that this guitar should be between $800 and $1,200. And that's just not how it works. When you have something that has that much more involved, and it comes with real Fishmans, and it comes with a real Floyd Rose, it's a Floyd Rose 1000, but still, it is not an in-house bridge. It is not in-house pickups. It has a much higher level of engineering. It makes sense that this guitar would be, with no artist premium on it, $1,500 to $1,800, and then with artist premium on it, makes sense that it would be $2,000. If you put it in line with their other guitars that are $1,200 to $1,400, because there are SEs that are $1,200 to $1,400. So it really does make sense that it's $2,000. Tariffs notwithstanding. I mean, I don't know how all that factors in. I'm not sure. Every company, and the reason I say that, and we can't make a blanket statement for that, because every company is handling it differently, in how they handle import costs right now. I know for me personally, we handle it different than other people do, right? So like some people are just going to be like, I'm going to mark it up 30% because I have to pay 30% more. Okay. All right. Okay. Calm down. Like there's different ways to handle it, where you can still maintain profitability. It's harder. It costs money. It's not easy. I'm telling you, it's expensive, but everybody does it a little different. So I'm not really sure what they're doing specifically for that. So, that, of course, that's none of our business. We just buy the guitars, right? Let's see. He gave it a knee kick. Okay. I mean, whatever. He kicked his guitar on stage and he broke it. Okay. Yeah. Makes sense. Don't kick your guitar. Don't do that. Let's see. Blah, 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 blah. Here, I'm just reading down through the comments. Ton of upcoming Indonesian guitars are $1,500 and up. Prices are not coming down. Yeah. No, it's true. It's totally true. So it might be okay money, but I'm still not going to get it. Okay. I mean, that makes sense, you know? Yeah. The price is derived from the cost of the core model. The SE at $2,000 is 5 times cheaper than the core. That's not how life works. I don't know if what you do for a living, but that's not how it works. Oh, that's funny. That's funny. The neck has dragon inlays. That can't be cheap either. Yeah. So there's a lot of premium stuff on this guitar still. I think the fact that it says PRS SE on it is giving people an expectation of what this guitar should cost. And when I look at it from a manufacturing standpoint and you look at it where it sits in the rest of their models, PRS SE models, it makes total sense. It makes total sense. People see $2,000 and they're all freak out, but, honestly, life's expensive now. And here's the other thing about it. People need to also realize that this guitar is not people that are complaining about how expensive this guitar is are not people that were going to buy it anyway. The people that want this guitar will pay whatever it costs. So what I mean by that is when the $7,000 one came out, they made however many of them and they sold immediately, right? They're basically all gone. Okay. So everybody that didn't get one and everybody that was like, man, I would love to have that if it was not so expensive is a fan for a reason. There's a reason they wanted that guitar, right? But they're like, dang it, I couldn't lay out $7,000 or I couldn't get one in time. All those people don't care that this is $2,000. They're just buying them. Everybody that says $2,000 is too expensive wasn't buying them in the first place. They're not going to buy them. They weren't going to buy them. They're not, because if you're a fan, you're buying this guitar, period. It doesn't matter. Like if you are a fan within reason, I'm saying within reason, but if you're a fan who is like, man, I really wanted one of the first ones, but there's just no way, chances are you're going to find a way to get this thing. And so, because this guitar is not it's not another Strat. It's not another, it's not another mainstream model addition to the lineup, if that makes sense. If this was just another brand of toilet paper, I get it, but it's not. It's a specialized thing for people that, for a kind of a nichier audience. They're going to sell them. Yeah. Mid pickup slot is so right. Yeah, he made it to where the way it works, you don't hit your hand on it, which you're right. I dig that a lot. That's really cool. Yep. Yeah, no, I dig it a lot. And I think people that aren't old aren't gonna care either. I think when people talk about price of guitars, I think a lot of those of us who talk about price are people who remember when stuff was cheaper and forget that inflation is a thing. And that guitars haven't actually gotten more expensive. Money has gotten more expensive. You know what I mean? Like when you look at adjusted numbers and stuff, like from the 80s or the 70s or the 60s or even the 2000s, guitars really haven't gotten that much more expensive. Money has gotten more expensive, and that's the key. So, I don't think it's a big deal. It's going to be it's a neat guitar. I don't want one. This is an interesting one because it's such a cool guitar. Like it's very, very, a lot of you are going to be like, that thing's dumb. Okay. because maybe you don't play that kind of music. Maybe you don't, whatever. But I'm one of these people who will look at each particular object and not compare it with anything else and just be like, okay, this guitar is actually very cool. It has a lot of things that a lot of other guitars approach differently. It has a different approach to certain things. It has, it's very unique looking. I don't know. I just think it's really, really neat. And the original one I think is phenomenally cool. I don't want one though. It's just not my thing, but it's very, very cool. Very cool. I bought my Les Paul Standard 22 years ago for $19.99. So here's what you need to do. Go figure out, adjusted for inflation, what that costs now. You will be surprised. Yeah, you will be surprised. What is worth it to you is what matters. Yeah, exactly. Yeah, and that's what I'm saying. I think the folks that want this guitar want it. You know what I mean? And that sounds dumb to say, but you know what I'm talking about. Like, I think what happens is there's a lot of like talk in the guitar community about stuff, but when you like a lot of back and forth and this is too expensive and that's too expensive and whatever. But when it really comes down to it, the people that want this stuff are just going to buy it. They're just going to buy it. I mean, when something comes out that I want, sometimes I don't buy it right away because, I might not have the money or whatever. I have to sell something to get it or whatever, but I'm going to get it. I think it's really cool. Like, there are things that cost too much money, but I still want them because I think they're cool. And I think there's not enough of that going around. I think, is this thing cool? Do you think it's cool? Then buy it, My Ibanez S521 was $399 and looks similar, just missing the Floyd Rose. Yeah. So, and there are a lot of those, go fast guitars that do look similar. I'm not familiar enough with all of, Leslie always says that. She's like, man, them Ibanez guitars have so many letters and numbers. How do you even keep track of them? I'm like, yeah, I don't know. I don't even try. No offense to the Ibanez junkies out there who like really get into them and know what all the models are and stuff. I just don't. Cause I don't really spend a lot of time on all the go fast guitars. That's what I call them. Cause they're like, you play fast and you do wheedly deedly stuff on them. And I think they're cool. But when you look at, I could guarantee you this, that if you gave me the SE Clio and whatever guitar you just talked about, and you put them both in my hands and gave me 10 minutes, I could tell you why they cost a different amount of money. Does that mean that guitar is not right for you? No, absolutely not. I'm just saying, from a manufacturing standpoint, from a cost of materials standpoint, from a engineering standpoint, all those things, it's not hard if you know what you're looking at to understand why a $400 guitar costs what it costs and a $2,000 guitar costs what it costs. Now, that doesn't mean that it's the same for everybody. Obviously, that's why they exist, which is really cool. We're glad that the $400 guitar exists, and I'm glad that guitar makes you happy because that's what it should do. But just understand that there are differences that can be perceived when you look into it. It should have stainless steel frets. If he didn't want them, he didn't want them. And you're not going to do stainless steel frets in a Cortec factory, probably. Is there anything else? Okay, before I talk out of the side of my head, is there anything else coming out of Cortec right now that has stainless steel frets? That's a question. Because if there isn't, that's why there is no stainless steel frets on this guitar, because they wouldn't have the tooling to do it. And my guess is that the other okay, let's talk stainless steel frets. Okay, hang on. But first, let me take a selfie. Okay, stainless steel frets. The reason more guitars do not have stainless steel frets is because of the cost of installing them. The parts themselves are not, I mean, it's more, right? They cost more, but it's not about the cost of the stainless steel. It's about the installation of it. Okay. Because there are, so you can say, well, Harley Benton has a guitar with stainless steel frets on it. Okay. There's a stainless steel fret job, and then there's a stainless steel fret job. Okay. And there is a big difference. Big difference. When you have to have a completely different tool set, a completely different skill set, a completely different training, completely different everything to do stainless steel frets. It's not just something where you can be like, yo, can you put stainless steel frets in my guitar? And if the guy's never done it, do not let him. He will screw it up and they will not be good. Somebody that does stainless steel frets needs to know what they're doing to have a really good job done. And so, you know, you can, like I said, you can buy a really inexpensive import guitar with stainless steel frets in it, but that doesn't mean that they're going to be good. And I'm sure there's somebody in the comments right now saying they've got some Harley Benton and it's got some amazing stainless steel frets on it. Give it to me for 5 minutes. I'll show you. They can be super chattery. They can be really inconsistent. And not all stainless steel is equal. Stainless steel frets are level to fun to level and crown. Not exactly. No, that's exactly right. No, exactly right. There's a guitar with stainless steel frets and one that has had a stainless steel fret job. That's exactly right. Yeah, exactly right. It doesn't mean that they'll all be bad, but if it need work, it's yes. Okay. So good point. So, you know, a lot of these very inexpensive guitars, just because of the cost of them, it's not, you know, I don't want to say anything bad about anything, but basically on an inexpensive instrument, like a $400 Chinese guitar. Okay. They just press the frets in and they might hit it with a beam and then just go. Like it's literally, there's not a whole lot going on there. Okay. When you have a stainless steel fret situation, it takes much more than that to get them right and to have them be good. So yeah. He mentioned he didn't want stainless steel frets because it's harder to maintain them if needed. Not all stainless steel frets are equal. Well, there you go. Exactly. Will there be Squiers for $2,000 soon? Opinion on Fender and Squiers future. I doubt it because I believe it is my opinion and Fender has a different approach to how they market entry-level instruments. Here's the thing about PRS. They don't have entry-level instruments. So everybody thinks that because PRS SE is SE and it's not the core model, that they should be $400 just like everything else. And now because they're not, they're too expensive. But the bottom line is this: they don't have entry-level instruments. Fender is different. Fender starts their product family, i.e. their product culture for those of us who are customers, at a much lower price point. Okay, so they start building you into the Fender culture at $200 on Amazon, right? PRS doesn't do that. PRS knows, I think, that and I've not ever talked to them about this, but you can see it in the way they market things, that they know that they are a second or third or fourth guitar for somebody, right? They know that for the most part, you're going to go get a Squier classic vibe, you know, and then you're going to step up to a Mexico guitar. Or if you're really feeling cool or whatever, maybe you get the SE Silver Sky because it's about the same money. But probably not because your friends are going to make fun of you unless you're a real maverick like me. You know, and then you're going to go, then maybe you're going to buy an Epiphone Les Paul or you're going to buy a PRS 594 SE for the same money range. And some people are going to go the way of the Gibson family, and some people are going to go the way of the PRS family, but it's not typically a first guitar. I say all that to say Fender, I think, is always going to have a very inexpensive Chinese guitar that you're going to be able to buy. Are they going to be more expensive? Are they going to get more expensive? Yeah, because life gets more expensive. But I think they're always going to have that entry-level one just because of their approach to marketing is different. That is my opinion on it. Herman Li is in my chat. What the heck, dude? Well, hello. Thanks for talking about this guitar. Everyone who wants stainless steel frets should talk to a professional touring guitar tech, luthier, about the advantages and disadvantages. I agree. And thanks for popping in here, Herman. I appreciate that very much. This thing is just so, I love and since it's here, I don't want to like start gushing about the guitar, but really, when you start, and I guess my whole point of making this video today was this. People didn't like this guitar when it came out. The folks that didn't like this guitar when it first came out did not understand the purpose of it. Okay. They did not understand the engineering feat that it is. Now you have a $2,000 SE by PRS that, honestly, I think the price is justified. But I also think it's not, and I said this before, it's not a regular PRS SE. But when you look at it all, and then let's go ahead and compare it to the other guitars. Let's compare it to the other guitars. People talked about Ibanez. They talked about, we could talk about ESP. We could talk about a bunch of other, like I say, go fast guitars. But the niche of this, it's different. It's just different. I think it's just different. I think we all need to learn how to tinker with our guitars more. Oh, I agree, for sure. That's why we do what we do on the channel. I don't understand why some people want it cheaper if the Fishman set itself would be a good chunk of money. Okay, so I'm with you on that. Didn't they release a $499 SE guitar the year before? That's not too far from an entry-level price. Second step, maybe. Okay, you're right. You're right. You know what? I missed that one. You're not wrong. That was like a brushed finish or something, some kind of, right? Like some kind of not shiny finish. Yeah. No, I think that's very cool. Yeah, I think that's very, very cool. And here's another thing. Let's see. I wonder how this will sit with the S2 line, which is around the same price. Okay, different animals. Different animals. This is exactly what I was just talking about how the Herman Li signature is in its own. If we had a little guitar show going in the room right here, right? And we had all the family, all the PRS family. Let's say we had a PRS guitar show going in the room right here. We would have all the conventional PRSs, which is the S2 would go in, right? And they would be all over here, right? And then we would have the Silver Sky stuff and the maybe the NF53 stuff. They're kind of in their own little zones. And then the Herman Li thing would have its own table too. Because the NF53 and the Silver Sky are so completely different from the normal core PRS stuff, right? And then over here on the separate table, we have the Herman Li thing because it's its own total thing too. And you bring up a good point with that because one of the things that PRS does very well is they allow each of those sub groups of guitars to live within themselves without getting super confused, right? So you're never going to be like, you're never going to look at the Herman Li guitar and you're never going to go like, wait, is that a, what is that? Is that a McCarty or is that a, what is that? You're never going to do that. You're never going to look at a Silver Sky and be like, hey, is that a, that's not a CE24. Wait, which model is that? You're never going to do that. The same thing with the NF53. You're never going to do that. PRS has done a great job of allowing and building those brands, those kind of sub brands within the big brand, within themselves. And I think that's really cool. The other thing I would talk about with it is limited numbers. I don't know. I've not spoken to anybody. And Mr. Lee's in the chat, but he may not be in a position to say. I don't know what the numbers are in comparison to, like a Silver Sky or, something like that. I don't know how available these things are going to be. How many the run is. We don't have that information most of the time, in the public. So, like on the limited one, we knew how many they were and they were just going to sell out. But no, that's pretty neat, man. This SE is built to be as good or better than my Ibanez eGen 18 signature guitar, which cost $3,000 US in 2008. It's not meant to be a cheap guitar. Thank you for bringing that point up. That's something that I was going to talk about. So this is still a premium guitar, right? It's still a premium guitar. It's still got premium features. It's made by Cortec, which is still a premium foreign factory outside of the United States, right? It is not meant to be, this is a good point. It is not meant to be a cheap guitar. Like we just talked about, PRS doesn't really do cheap guitar. They don't really do that. They don't want to identify themselves. We make pickups here for a living. We don't have a Chinese knockoff of our own pickup. We don't have a cheap version of our pickups. We just don't, because I don't want to operate on that level. I just don't want to. Because it's not who we are as a company. And I think that's the same thing with PRS. And what I think is really cool is that PRS, Paul himself specifically, has given some of these artists, and I don't know because I've not spoken. Man, I'd love to interview Herman on the podcast. That'd be cool. I don't know how much autonomy these artists are given to develop the guitar, but it seems like they have a pretty good relationship when they build this stuff and be like, and I think honestly, this guitar is probably the best example of it because I don't want to say the weirdest in a negative way, but I mean it's weird, right? It's not conventional. I'm talking about the custom one, the first one that came out. It's weird. It's like we've never seen anything like this. But he was allowed to do it. And I watched the video this morning, and what was it, 7 or something years to do it? So it took a long time, which meant a lot of work. That's pretty neat, man. Yeah, that's pretty cool. Somebody said earlier before Herman made that comment, why do people want the guitar cheaper? And this is something that I'm going to talk about a lot in videos and in our podcasts and various things like that, is I believe, this is my opinion, this is just totally opinion, but I mean, I've been in business for myself for many years, and I believe that a race to the bottom, price-wise, so intentionally trying to get things cheaper and cheaper and cheaper and cheaper, is going to be the demise of the companies that try to do it. When you have a company like PRS who says, you know what, we're just going to make the cool thing, and we're going to pick the right cool thing and hope it sells, they're going to be much more successful than people who rely on trying to get cheaper and cheaper and cheaper and cheaper and cheaper. Because the problem is that you put yourself business-wise into a corner, because then there's this expectation, right, from the consumer. Oh, this brand should always have this cheap thing. Well, then all of a sudden they can't have this cheap thing for one reason or another, whether they can control it or not. And then all of a sudden the brand suffers. So if you make a cool thing and you charge what you can for that cool thing and people buy it, you're probably going to be a lot more successful. And if you give the artists and the designers autonomy to say, I think this thing is going to be cool and I think people are going to buy it, it's just a much more natural way to do business in the guitar industry, in my opinion. Yeah. Yeah. So I just feel like I wanted to talk about this guitar because the first time we talked about it, nobody agreed with me that guitar should cost $7,000. And I'm like, I want to show you what $2,000 looks like now. Look what all the things that they had to do different to get it to $2,000. That thing was special. I mean, very special. Even though I don't really want one because I don't play that kind of music, that thing is very, very special. And to be sort of a technology halo for the brand, I think it's really cool. I think if I was Herman, I'd be very proud that PRS let him do something that was so insane. Because now here's what's going to happen. Now PRS is going to be like, wait, we developed a machine to sand this weird spot on this guitar, and now it's going to allow us to do these other things on these other guitars. Because that's what happens, right? So you have this 7,000 unobtainium guitar that's very limited. But what happens a lot of times with those halo products, this is in any business, cars, anything, is the halo product that's up over and above everything else, pushes the engineering, pushes the equipment, pushes the designers, pushes everything. And then they start to filter those things down, right? It's like Formula One racing. Eventually, we start to have Formula One technology in a regular car. So that's what will happen, is a lot of this stuff will start to filter down to the rest of the brand, and it'll be good for the rest of the brand, which is pretty neat. Yeah, it's pretty cool, man. Cool. Let's see. I'm going to go back and just make sure I didn't miss any cool comments. Let's see. Would you reckon that Cortec could build guitars that truly matched the PRS core models if they were allowed the materials and the build time? Well, so, I mean, any group of people can be trained to do any level of quality given the same technology. The reason it will never happen is because they want to build those guitars to a price. Okay. So that's why you're going to have a laminated top 594 instead of a solid top 594, right? That's why you're going to have, on the Herman Li, these metal caps instead of all the machining. That's why you're going to have the bolt-on neck instead of the other way. All those things are ways to create this guitar at a price that's more attainable for people. And I think, given, I believe, because I have faith in people that love what they do, that yeah, if you gave them the same equipment, right? Anybody could be taught, and if they're passionate about it, they could be taught to do the same thing with the same equipment, the same materials, the same everything. And yeah, they could put that out, but it would not be the same cost. See, everybody thinks that, okay, well, then because it's made over there, that then you can just do whatever you want in Indonesia and it will automatically be cheaper than what it is in the United States. But that's not how it works. Yes, labor costs are less over there because biggest reason, I don't want to get into politics here, but the biggest reason is Indonesia energy costs are a lot lower. So I've got a buddy of mine that works with a bunch of factories over there, and that's what he was telling me, was that the energy costs are a lot lower. So then everything can be cheaper. So there will always be that delta. But if a machine has to run, look, so I always use the example of, well, let's use the example of the Herman Li guitar. So the Herman Li guitar, that the machining that has to be done to make, let's just talk about the output jack. Okay. I don't know because I wasn't there for the programming, but let's say that output jack takes 4 operations, because it probably does, 3 to 4. I would say 3 to 4 operations, maybe. Okay, being conservative, let's say 3 operations that each take, I don't know, maybe 5 or 6 minutes. Okay, a piece. Versus the SE version that has probably 1 operation that takes probably 1.5 minutes to just make the football shape and drill the 2 holes for the thing to go in there. Right? So no matter what, if it takes 5 times as long to do a thing, it's going to be more expensive. It's just kind of how it is. It's the Ferrari marketing versus Ford. There's an expectation of exclusivity and performance when buying a Ferrari, even one of their lower price point models, when compared to the big brands. It's true. It's true. And to be honest with you, there is something to be said for cool stuff is cool and cool stuff costs money. And I guarantee you that if you buy one of these Herman Li signatures for $2,000 and you go to your open mic night, you're going to be the only one that's got one. And it's going to be cool. And people are going to think it's cool. Even if they don't want one, they're going to think it's cool. And that's cool, right? Like, that's cool. I think we get too tied up with the price stuff sometimes and don't think about the fact that I just want this because it's cool, man. It's really cool. Yeah. I wonder what the gig bag looks like, because the gig bag's probably going to be different than the regular. You know, all the SE gig bags are kind of the same, but it's got to be a little different, right? The shape is, I don't know. Maybe they did it so that it's the same, but my imagination, looking at the outline of the guitar, I wonder if the gig bag's different. I don't know, which is another cost, right? When you have to tool up another gig bag. So yeah, man. Super fun. Let's see. Somebody said, I'm surprised it's only $2,000. I hear you. I hear you. Yeah, man. Yeah. So there you go. Super fun conversation. I love talking about this stuff. Wow, that's pretty neat. Thanks, Herman, for popping in the chat. And hit me on the website chat if you want to chat about this more. I'd love to talk to you. That'd be cool. If not, if you're too busy, that's okay too. But yeah, this has been a really fun conversation. I really appreciate the gig bag is the same. I wish it was better. Okay. That's okay. I didn't know if it was going to be the same shape and the same everything. Cause yeah, like we've talked about, all those gig bags are the same. So there you go. Great. You guys, this has been super fun. We will talk to you later. Thanks for hanging out, and we'll probably have another video for you tomorrow. We'll see you then.